Yes, as I'm saying, Donald, yeah, there's some people that go study, get their education, yeah, and map out their life properly. And there's some people that they don't do it properly and life doesn't map out. So what I'm saying to say is, yeah, those people that are not on the same page as us, if we're talking about community building and building for your nation and putting everything together and trying to be one and unifying, we just have to see them at the last hurdle, bruv. You know, we see them at the last hurdle. When we're doing what we're doing and building what we're building and going to where we need to go to, we'll link them at the last lap. And if they want to come on board, they can come on board. And if they don't, it's perfectly up to them. You feel me?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going with that. You know, I'm not saying that everybody has to join us or be on the same conquest as us. No. And some people are going to feel different. Even though they are your people, they don't want to walk that walk that you're walking. And I understand that. And I'm saying there's nothing wrong with that either. But for the ones that are thinking alike, we all gotta walk the same walk to get somewhere.
Yeah, so I it's I agree with you, and it is what that looks like, and whether I have my viewpoint in terms of how that looks like, and it's finding people who are on the same wavelength and are willing to get the, as I say, using the phrase, get the ball rolling.
Sure.
And that's the main thing.
Sure.
Having that financial, depending on which way we want to go, it's like also having that financial package so that we can actually, start to implement. Just depends on what the first, how big the vision is, and also what the practicalities are, and in terms of what do we see as being the main issues that we need to be addressing first.
Mm-hmm. All right, Doc.
Depending on where we are located and stuff, depends on what we agree on as being our way forward and what we need to address first.
All right, then. So listen, another subject I want to talk about. When it comes onto our black children, the youngsters, the boys and the girls, yeah. In society, for what I see, it's like a lot of the women are grown up to be like boys. Yeah, they're more pushed to the front. And a lot of the boys are babied up. So it's like a lot of them are soft. Yeah, and I think that comes down to the parents. And it's obviously we know that woman is the backbone of everything. Yeah, woman is the strongest force as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned, they're the strongest force. But in society, it's like our males are not even considered as males. They're like babies. And why do you think that is?
I think generally there's certain things specific to our community, and then there's certain things that are quite generic. And I think as a whole, men, some would deem them under attack because, when I was growing up, the roles of what women did and what men did was more defined.
Of course.
As time has gone on now, those things have been redefined as women find themselves with more economical, political, social, environmental stature and status, and then no longer have to depend on a man to provide for them. So that role that was more so passed on, like, the role that I was acquired on as told by my father and his father's father, that a man needs to provide for his household. Now, if you as a man aren't on the same, scope as your earning capacity as the woman you're looking after, and she's earning more money than you, then that's one thing. If you're unable to access employment, then that will really have an impact on that. If the woman becomes more independent independent. It's how you both manage that, and now that is managed in a sensitive way. So even in the structures, there's a lot of upheaval. Even men around the world, they're struggling because what would be normal statures around, or particular roles that will be defined by man is woman is, they're no longer there. The lines have become blurred. So concerning our kids, again, that often the way young boys are nurtured, they are normally loved, and the girl child, as we would use in our community term, back in the day terminology, girl child, she's raised. So the young lady is raised to do a large, wide function of activities and skills she'll be gained, whereas the boy is just raised, be a man, and how limiting that is. So the young man goes with certain elements of, this is what being a man is, to go out there and earn, show that you're a man, be able to chirp up a girl or do certain things, but some of it doesn't always evolve around responsibility or discipline. So normally the young man will get some degree of discipline through the father figure, if the father figure's there, and often with the mother figure. But that energy is still there, and sometimes it gets channeled if the young person joins society, the cadets, or he joins the scouts, or he joins sports. So that's another way where he learns discipline. But if he doesn't have those things, then, and doesn't have the touch of a male in ease under the same household, then it's a struggle, really. Because when a young man gets at a certain age, he definitely needs male involvement. And women can do like a great job, but they can't play the role as a man. And a boy needs that. And I see that even with my interaction with my son. There comes a time around 10, 11, they need to move away from the mother, and they need a man to help them through puberty and how to deal with their emotions. And what they do is to look to the nearest man possible to be able to engage them. So I think it's a very critical time as a man you're going through, really, because often when I was growing up, my dad wasn't around. He immigrated back to Jamaica, and whilst there were a lot of positive or a lot of black role models in America, I couldn't really identify with them because our cultures were distinctly different, and some of the rhetoric that were coming out, it was so alien to me. So I literally had to, being the awkward teenager that I was, and being insecure in a lot of ways, because at those times, racism where I grew up was quite rife, and I grew up in a predominantly white area, and obviously, I would be, not obviously, but what had happened was that I was often set upon by the police, and so spent a lot of my youth fighting or trying to stand up, but it left me quite insecure at times and unsure about myself, and information around black history wasn't as prevalent as it is now, or the black role models, or a lot of positive role models. So it depends on that era. So often these kids that are now young men, it still is a struggle, really, for them to identify, because again, is it someone that they see on the street, their peers? Just depends who has the biggest influence over them. So it's not an easy time, really, to identify what being male is, because it's been deconstructed all the time. And now, even when I was in education, you were getting regularly taught that there are different names now. So people want to be defined as non-sexual, romantic, or vice versa. So it's not as easy now with the roles. Now you're deemed as being ignorant if you define yourself as a male. Even that side of it is, so it's a men. I think men are under a massive attack, and that could be one of the reasons why there's a high level of suicide amongst certain male figures at a certain age. So there's certain things that are affecting men in our own, and obviously that becomes more specific when you then depict that amongst different communities and obviously relate it to ourselves, because as to say, really, this is my viewpoint in terms of the black man, again, where our opportunity, especially when you get to a certain age, 30 plus or so. If you've not established yourself into a particular career, it's very difficult. And your capacity to earn a certain level of money becomes, through the normal routes, becomes a struggle. So then if you're black women tend to be more, accepted now in today's society in the corporate world in various ways. So it's a difficult, many minorities, we may not see the opportunities that come our way for one reason or the other, and often we've overtaken by other minority groups who've come in and been able to display the right attitude towards what, particular, maybe undercutting cheaper to when it comes to employment. And so, again, we're not there in terms of, jobs and employment. We're still suffering there.
Yeah.
And, this is why I'll say in terms of going forward, why, if any other time now, it's really important for us as a community to come together and join our forces and look at ways of, creating another Black Wall Street or some avenues where we can, put together so that our kids won't have to depend on solely just going and getting a job with some other person, but they can look and think, actually, there are opportunities within the Black-owned businesses for us to, take on board and to actually look at career at.
Yeah, that's real.
Funny enough, I was watching something, science fiction, but I was watching a program and it was based around, a show's based around mermaids, and that there were those mermaids that had mixed with humans, and those humans, because they realized they'd been persecuted, what they did, they put their people through education. So what you had those that they had their own positions so that they wouldn't be detected, and that they would be able to give them specific health issues that are relative to them, healthcare provisions. So they had everyone in all different parts of society that were able to keep that community safe, and they put their money together and they bought their own land, and they had their own commune that would go together to worship, discuss any issues, and they really protected their community. And it's the same with ourselves, really, in some things. If we look at our community, really, when we go to get our hair products, which is something that's really important to our beauty and health, we often have to go to another culture to provide that for us. When it comes to our food,
True.
Which is really important, what nutrition we put in our body, we're going to another community to provide for us. When it comes to clothes, often we're going to another community culture to do that. Now, we don't know when it comes to clothes and the chemicals that they're using, whether that's has a negative impact on our DNA or our skin or anything, or itching. True. We don't know the hair products that we're taking and putting in our hair that's going to have a diverse impact, because the research may not necessarily be there, because it's another culture. We don't know the meat and produce that we put in our body is having a negative impact on us, because we're not producing our goods, because they're not made in love. They're made for profit. They're made generic. Mm-hmm. Now, every culture is, like Dr. Zepp used to say, like, if you're from Africa or from a continent, and then it's better that you nourish your body with those diets that are more privy to that. When you go somewhere else, you're eating a diet that's not privy to you, it can have a negative reaction, potentially, to your body. So everything that we purchase or that is important to our existence, we are getting that from another culture. So, for example, Jewish, they will have their Jewish, butchers who will give them kosher meat. We go back in there, yeah, man, that's legit, that's kosher. So I remember working in the banqueting, and I did my first ever,
Bar mitzvah,
that's it. Thank you. And I was in the kitchen, and we were doing the waitering, and there was just a guy in a white coat stood there, didn't cook, he just there was to observe, to make sure that the caterers, the chefs, everyone adhered to the strict rules of the food was going to be prepared. So I thought, wow. And the guy said, yeah, all my job is just to make sure the temperature, the tools that they use, everything is correct, and that they adhere to Jewish principles. And then another time, year or two, probably 2 years ago, I worked for another Jewish company, and they just had me working in a estate and business estate. And so a guy got out of business, and the dishwasher broke, and what the guy had, he had two different sets of pots. One was blue and one was red. One was the Jewish one, had to be washed in water, but for Jews, so the water couldn't be mixed with those that were non-Jews. Wow. So I remember I had to wash 300 plates. One for that the Jews would eat off, and one would be for non-Jews, and you couldn't use the same water or cross-contaminate. Wow. And then the specific dishwashers. So what I'm saying really is that a lot often, because the things we are, the way we live our life, the things we're doing, is very generic. It is having a very negative impact on our way of life, our health, our mental well-being, all sorts, because we are not taking the importance, significance of our daily life and our experience of living in Western society is having a major impact on ourselves. And so therefore, really, research has been done, but because we're not always aware of that, we just take it as, man, why you can't be tough, why you can't be doing that. But really, we're living in environments that are affecting the natives, never mind us. So when you look at it, that we're lacking in we got melanin, but we're lacking in vitamin D, and the importance of vitamin D, and now that is on our mental well-being, vitamin B. So if our diets and the food we eat that we call soul food, but it's not the ideal food for a cold environment, because our food is often grease orientated. Now, what happens when you put grease in the fridge? It goes solid. Now, potentially that can have an impact. We eat hard food. That hard food is for laborious work, because it's food that you eat as a slow, it breaks down as a slow digestion. It's something that will break down in a not quickly. It's not fast food, it's hard food. But we eat that on a Sunday, or at times after the designated time, because most people say don't eat after 6 o'clock, but we'll eat hard food which sits on our system. We're not exercising. Most of us now are not doing jobs that are laborious, where we're out there digging ground. We're just doing office jobs, but we're eating food which is quite heavy. So often when you eat on a Sunday, the next thing you want to do is fall asleep.
Sure.
So all these different things really, it's about re-educating. And as I said, most of the inner city communities where there are large BME communities, there are, chicken shops. Here, then, everywhere again, we're eating foods that are in some ways potentially contaminated.
Of course.
So when you're eating that, we don't know what ingredients are being put into that. So when you look at our young people now, when you look at America, how these people are giants, I wonder if that is some of the chemicals that we're eating and absorbing in our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So, and all the ailments. So you see kids now wearing size 13 trainers, or young ladies who are physically developing into women before your eyes, but emotionally they're not there. Or, the increase of ADHD, or, feminization, all these different things. Who knows what's being put in the water, vice versa. So,
of course.
It's a big major thing. Those people who have money, they can control what they have. It's like I was listening to a blog by the guy who wrote the book, Poor Dad, Rich Dad. And he was sharing that what he has his own position. He has his own accountants. He has a team of people around him to maintain his success. And he's handpicked those people. But he in his home, he's got, boxes and boxes of, medicines. So he stockpiles, antibiotics, masks. Even before the coronavirus, he's got all these different things there, so that if there's a crisis or situation, he can get to that. He's got a doctor for this specialism. He's got a doctor for that. And all these people that help him, he's got his own personal dentist. Now, most of us now go to a doctor who isn't like us.
course.
So therefore, they're not offering some of the medicinal. So your parents will go and drink a bush tea or some bitter herb. You know, now those things now are being we've been persuaded for years to go and leave organically grown medicines off the herb to go and put synthetic medicines that are not always agreeable with us. So they don't really cure anything; they just keep us maintained on drugs.
What on
And then what happens then? We then will go on YouTube or something else, and we'll see the very things, the very people who told us not to engage in their kids or their descendants telling us there's this bush, but they've called it a different name. Drink this, do that. And when you look at it, it's the very things that we were engaged in. Now they've bottled it, printed it, and sent us, and we're buying it in droves. But it grows wild. It goes wild back in Africa and other places. But we've had to allow someone who's non-black to tell us that these things were amazing, they're great, and then we end up spending a fortune on it when they're for free. But there's nothing stopping us coming together and going, look, man, let's do a pilgrimage to Africa or the Caribbean island. Let's try and, sponsor some scientists and doctors to look at these things and bottle them in a way that we can repackage them and sell them back to UK or Western world and provide a service for our communities. If they don't sell them in the pharmacies, then what we can do is set up our shops just like the Chinese do, and they on our high streets and provide those facilities for our community and do tests on our elderly to see if we can improve their life and well-being and seeing if these things do, and get a license to sell, for example, like cannabis, but not to smoke, but in the form of bush tea or crushed in herbs and stuff.
Hold on there, Donald.
Yeah. Cool.
Alright, so Donald, let me ask you a question, yeah? So you see when you had to wash them 300 plates and all that stuff, right? And
yeah.
You said there was red ones and blue ones, yeah?
Yeah.
How did you feel as a black man washing them plates, knowing that this water can't be used with that water because that would contaminate, and the other ones is just do what you can do? How did you feel as a person knowing that the plates were segregated?
When I looked at it, I just thought, wow, these guys are serious. I think for me, when I went into it initially, it was all the way up North London, so the distance, but it was cold. I remember it being a cold day. The shutters were open, and I thought, wow, the dishwasher's broke. So I had to unwash them. I thought, wow, these guys they're not messing around. This guy's doing this, and there's no one to say anything different. He could have put all of them together. But so these guys are so serious on their game that, they're even taking it so strict that they're getting me to wash those dishes for them. And I just thought to myself, you know what? Wow. If you look at the guy, he wouldn't even mash hands, but he had a little side business hustle, and he was providing the service. And then I then looked at this further, and I listened to some, again, podcasts around that, and I saw that the Jewish community have a really good idea and understanding of business. So what they'll do, they'll set up each member of their community to provide one particular service. So one person is a garage, is a mechanic, so the Jews would take their stuff to that person.
That's right.
Another person just provides accountancy, so that person will do that. So what they say, you won't get one person doing multiple things, they'll just do one specific thing. So the money goes around, I think, 26 times before it leaves the community.
And the funniest thing is, as well, like, black people got a thing called partner, yeah? They throw their partner. And then, at every certain time, you get a hand, I'll get a hand, and a hand meaning, like, you get a partner draw, so you get the money, whatever the money is, yeah? Say, like, if it's £1,200, you get £1,200, then someone else have to carry on, and then another person get the £1,200 and all that, yeah, until the last person. But it's mad, yeah, that we do it on such a small scale. But you see, like, people that are like Jewish and stuff like that, they have the same thing. They've got ones where they put £200, yeah, and they've got probably 200 people in there. You know what I'm saying? Or even less, or even more. But when they're done with their thing, when they're done with their partner draw, they got like 2 million in there.
I'll be honest with you, I have to confess, I did a partner recently, and mine finished in February, and I was the last hand. And I was it was a real stretch, and it was extremely hard, and I put in a partner for £200 a month. And also, of course, I managed to do it, but the sad thing was that there was only 5 people in there. Yeah. So by the end of it, out of that intense labour, I only earned out of it £1,000. But the sacrifice it came in really handy, but it was just a shame, really, that there wasn't more people in there. And I just thought to myself that I'd made such a sacrifice and was the last in hand for it, and was only able to get a measly £1,000 out of it, having put 200 in it. So, as I said, if more people did it and there was more trust in it, then that will be amazing. Say if 5 people came and said, yeah, you know what, let's do a building. So, you know, the money we're putting in this now is going to specifically to construct something. It's an amazing thing. So that's, as I said, yeah, those are the tools. You know, having our own bank, that's another thing, where you can say, yeah, you know what, it's open to the community, but we want to really do it to invest majorly in, you know, in our community projects. So when you start buying real estate, as Americans will say, and you look at what the next big trends are, then you realise that that's the way forward. So having that collateral.
Yeah. So, what would you say? Your own opinion. Yeah. What would you say that we need to do to go forward? Yeah. I'm talking about spiritually, mentally, physically, all kinds. What would you say that we need to do to go forward, Don?
I think in going forward, the first thing, most important thing, is to come together and talk and see, you know, what you need is facts. So, for example, someone comes up and provides the information. Like if I remind myself, I say, okay, cool, you know what, if you got 50 black people together and we put together this amount over a specific amount of time, we could raise £1 million. With £1 million, this is what we can invest in. These are the properties that we could look at. With the properties, we can have revenue. Okay, cool. Right now, there's high blood pressure. There's this, that. For another amount of investment, we could provide food. We could put food together. Let's get some of our most accomplished cooks. Let's try and design diets that have more, that may still be meat-based, also vegan, but there's options there. We can feed our elderly, we can feed our most impoverished and people that are health provision. So we can do diets for people who got high cholesterol, which will scientifically bring it down, and we provide that. People pay for that service. We can do it at a subsidized way. But again, it goes back into the community part. Okay, cool. We need to buy our own clubs or community centres that have multiple functions. We can have Saturday school. We can use it for services for religious nature. We can use it for board meetings, vice versa. When we have our needs, we can use it. Come together, convention centre, bang, cool, board. It needs this. If we put this together, we can do that. Okay, cool. Transportation. You know, we can have our own taxi company or our own buses or vice versa that cater for the needs. This is what we need. These are the costs. This is what, if we do this, we claim our money back after 3 years. It's paid for itself. That's the way. Okay, cool. Our young people are failing. This is tried and tested methods. We can bring in, you know, issues. We'll say to them, give us the worst of our kids and the brightest of our kids. Or we can start with the brightest of our kids and go, okay, you know what? We will reduce. We can provide this for you, guarantee. These are the recommended teachers. We would do that. They'll be more specific. Cool. You know, that's the way I do it. I say, okay, cool. We need lawyers, solicitors. We need to recruit young black men and women who are willing to serve their communities. We will help you with your university degrees, but in turn, you need to dedicate your life to black focused issues. People want to be scientists or nurses, will do the same thing. We need researchers, scientific, to work on that. We're just going to pay you now to do research around the areas that are most prevalent. And look at, again, scientifically, which are the best ways to help our young men and women who are in the psychotic wards, mental health issues. You know, draw down funding, let's set up provision for those. Youth offending, those coming out of prison, we meet them in prisons. What would you like to do? Okay, cool, give us our role. We will, you know, reintegrate them back in society. We will try and provide them with provisions. Okay, gardening. Are you good with animals? We can do a dog grooming business, you know, work with them, rehabilitation. What are your passions? Okay, the car used to rob and that. You good with cars? All right, cool. We'll set a program up where we can, you know, recondition cars, repackage them, sell them at a cheap price. Then for those kids, we can have buy a piece of land that we can teach our kids to drive. And those are the things. Okay, they won't give us a youth club. We will have our youth club where we teach kids. It's got a studio. It's got cooking. All the kids learn how to cook. They learn how to make a bed, how to live, how to budget, how to invest money. It's that's the way I do it.
So Donald, yeah?
Yeah.
You know, as being like a support teacher, as you said, yeah?
Yeah.
You know, like when you've got like young black children in the class, like that are troubled, yeah? That are troubled and they can't concentrate, or they want to disrupt the class, or they're not using their manners. What have you picked up on since you've been doing this work?
I think the first thing you got to do is listen to the child. What I find is that the child comes in, you don't know what they've gone through. So the first thing I'd always go to the child, take them out and say, what's happened? Have you eaten? First thing, that's the first thing. Have you eaten? What I'll just do then is either make toast or give them provision. I'll never forget, there was a guy, he would have been what we call year 10 or 11, 15, he was a roadman. He would have issues with men. So when you speak to him, he'll never give you eye contact. So this guy, the way that I got through to this young man here was that the food that they brought in the new legislations or rule that the food can't be spiced in schools or have salt or sugar as such. So the way that I did with him, I used to like get salt from the office and put roll it up in a serviette and give it to him like I'm parceling drugs. And that's what built up the rapport between me and him, because he needed salt in his dinner. After that, I engaged him. I saw him many years later. You know, he was doing some serious crime and stuff. I saw him many years later at the train station, I think sometime last year. And he said to me, yeah, it's, you know, I'm doing good now, man. I've changed my life and I'm not about that street life and being a gangster and all of that now. You know, I'm getting my security license, I'm doing this and that. Guy was suited and booted, looking smart, embraced him, and I thought brilliant. So the most important thing is that with any child is to first deal with their emotional and physical way, because sometimes these kids haven't eaten and we're asking them to concentrate. And I know as an adult, if I go to work and haven't eaten, it's going to seriously impact on my ability to concentrate. So once I've done that, or sometimes they're acting out because they're not well, they've got colds. I ask them, what's happened? Oh, yes, I'm not feeling well. And that's how you build a relationship. So when they're not well, you have to be their mouthpiece and explain, and sometimes give them the benefit of the doubt. But also then say to them, look, it's important for you to be honest. So often I build a relationship with kids because, yes, they'd made a lot of wrong choices. So when they came in, they weren't able to express themselves because their very own parents may have said, go to school, even though they're not well. So once they've been tested, I would advocate for them and get them to be sent home, because in that way, that relationship was like, it's just a child, and no, their behavior was a child. And thankfully, we managed to set up a breakfast club, so the kids would come in, have their breakfast. You'll always get those ones that are still late. And in order, when I looked at it, I thought, you know what, yes, they're late, but you know what, let me try and sneak them some toast. Because I know that it's better to give them that food, because if you don't, you can guarantee at some point they're going to kick off and be irritable or disrupt the class because they've not eaten. So yeah.
Yeah, wicked. So Donald, yeah, you see, like for the young sisters, the young black sisters, yeah. What I've realised, yeah, is that a lot of this road and gang and all this culture, yeah, it's like a lot of the little boys that's out there on social media and just out there on the roads in general, doing the stuff that they're doing. It's like they're trying to impress people and trying to impress girls, and a lot of the girls is edging it on as well. I'm not talking about all of you. I'm not generalizing, but a lot of girls are edging it on as well. Yeah, to make some of these young boys feel like they're Superman or feel like they can do whatever they want to do. What words of encouragement would you give the young sisters when it comes onto that?
It's a difficult situation because, like with all of us, we want to be socially accepted. For us, for my generation, when I was growing up, we had uniform, but back in the day, then it was Farah. So if you had the F side on your trousers, you would get respect. You still had to wear shoes. I remember it was either Dr. Martens or the ones you call monkey boots. Mm-hmm. If your parents had money, you get Dr. Martens. If they didn't, you get monkey boots. If you had trainers, you get pencils. But if your parents could afford to buy something from the catalogue back in the day, you get a name brand trainers. So anything with a name brand, and that gave you a sense of self-importance and self-esteem. Nothing's really changed in that sense. Now with social media, kids are expected to be at a certain level. So my experience with kids, even with girls, wherever, no one wants to fail. Mm-hmm. Young people feel pressurized that if they don't get something right the first time, they don't want to do it. They don't want to be in that way. So everyone is a victim in some ways because they're a product of what they've been either indoctrinated. So again, the guys are there, they feel that, or it's replicated in the music videos or what they see, the guys who are the toughest, the best looking, the guys with the money, they're the ones that get the girls. And that's reaffirmed in, whether the dealers or you see a guy with a pretty girl, even our famous artists who are old and crinkly, they are going out with models. But why are the models there? Are they there because the guy's good looking, or is it because his power and status? I'll leave that up to your own imagination. So we are often the products. When I was growing up as a child, I was insecure. I felt a certain way. I wanted to be a famous musician. Why? Because I felt that it would give me status and I'd get the girls, but what I was really craving was just love and attention. And still, really, most human beings, we just want to be respected and appreciated. We go to work, whatever job we want, we just want to be appreciated for the job we do, told we're doing a good job and appreciated. We want to be respected. We want to be taken in consideration. And that's where wars, everything fights from. It's this sense of. Now, you may have those who have a degree of more self-importance, and then decide that this is what I want to do. Girls may feel like to add value to themselves. They feel that they have the potential of their sexuality and their status because another young man fancies them, or they have the capacity to, manipulate another individual to get what they want. The young man feels that he's got to perform because, again, even nature shows you sometimes the bird dancing or, putting his wings out or putting on the dance, because what he's trying to do is create a stage to say that he's the one that the female needs to be mating with. So it's just no different with ourselves that, we dress a certain way, we engage because we want to appear to our peers that I'm the man, and to the woman that I'm the guy that you want to be with. So again, it's the popular guy that gets the most chicks. So it's constant. So if you're not blessed with looks, you don't have the height, or you don't have something about you, then you have to have personality. So sometimes you see girls who are pretty because they've not had to really try. They've just focused on their beauty, so they've not had to develop their personality. Then you get the other girls who may not be pretty, but they've got a bold personality because they realise that they're about to work on something, so they're just as beautiful as attractive. So it's a difficult situation out there because, you know, we may have an important impact on our kids, but often they spend a lot of time on social media, and obviously, often social media is king. So if you tell your son or daughter something, and then they check it on Google and that information is incorrect, then they're going to look at you and think, actually, my mother or my dad's talking nonsense. So it's the biggest thing really is protecting our kids' minds from what they've been exposed to, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We happily get our kids up in the morning and tell them to go to school, and we allow someone else to brainwash them, don't we?
True.
If I was to be crude, but they're giving you their information, giving you history their way, and they're dictating what your kid needs to learn, even if it's against what your principles, whether it's against your religious views, your values, your ethics, whatever. They're telling you that they're going to teach their kids that way. They dictate what the agenda is and what it is, even if it's not relevant to the way you want your kid to be going down that route. So it's a difficult. The battle is over the mind. We as adults are battling over our own minds to keep our minds focused and firm. It's a battle. There's so many distractions. Nevertheless, kids who are still developing emotion, it's a struggle for them, and they've got impact. You know, we have our values and our ethics, which may not be shared by our kids. They may have different norms and values. Their peers start becoming more important, and what they say is more important. Sometimes our kids are not strong enough. They feel that they need to fit in, so they do the things that they do in order to be accepted. And it's difficult. It just depends on how strong-willed your child is and how important they are. You know?
Truly. All right, so for the adults now, you know, life, as we see in life, is very, very serious right now. Yeah, and the world is seeing that. Everything is very, very serious right now. So for the adults, yeah, what would you say that they need to do to come together to show a better example for the children and the new generation?
I think this time of coronavirus has been a blessing because it's enabled people. I was having a conversation with someone earlier on the telephone, and we're saying, yeah, it's true. You know, certain actions were different. You know, Brexit came and it created a lot of division, and you know, reintroduced certain attitudes that had been buried or suppressed, and then people felt that they wanted to focus on what was different about each other. You know, what we've learned through coronavirus is that, you know, death has no death has no respect of persons, whether you're rich, you're poor, you're black, you're white, whatever. It'll kill your ass in it, or your ass, or whatever it is. So people realize that in order to tackle it, they've focused on, as any time of war, it brings people together. They've taken on it as a war, and so you see the better nature of different people coming together. So the same way it is, death is death, you know, unto everyone's appointed a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
Those people that are smart will use the time and go, wow, let's marginalize. So as you say, people who are rich tend to get richer because they use this and see this as a great opportunity. Those that are poor often get poorer. So it's about changing the mindset, understanding new ways, you know, new ways of thinking, and moving forward for the greater good, and looking at ways that we can, you know, bring everybody up if it's possible.
Of course.
You know?
Of course.
So say to people, with the free time you've got, if you've got that, you know, read, you know, go online, research, look at the things, look at stuff that use the time to replenish your spirit. You know, it's the time to have faith in God, or to, understand what's happening, reflect about where your life is, about where you want to go to as an individual. I think it starts with the individual. Thinking to yourself, where are you now in your life? What is the life you intended to do? Is there a way that you can use this downtime to reflect and think, okay, what's worked? Where do I want to be? Do I want the next 10 years, 5 years to be like this? Is there a way that I can do that? I recently, through challenges and relocation, took great pleasure in signing on and done it for years, because I knew that doing that, there's a lot of opportunities to get free training. So I went and embarked upon that and made the most of it, and realised that, there is a lot of opportunities for you to do apprenticeships, which normally was for those that are 6 and 25. But now there's great opportunities as an adult that you can get a decent wage, and this is a great time to go into areas that often wouldn't be possible. They're now available. Cheap ways where employers will pay for you to become estate agents and other avenues. So there's different. I think this is a brilliant time. For those that have got their heads screwed on and not being distracted by the virus, just to use this time to center yourself, see God, reflect on where you want to be, those dreams and aspirations that you've always wanted to see if they're possible. And at the same time, from our communities, look at ways that, to identify where we're going wrong, what's happening, and to reflect and think, okay, how can we move forward collectively?
All right.
And spend time with your kids.
All right. And we want to say big up to all the white folk, the wonderful white folk that help out. Because when we do mention white folk, some white folk get upset and think that we're generalizing. We're not generalizing, because there's good white folk. There's good people in every colour. So big up to the ones.
Yeah, the relative is this is my take on it, is that unfortunately, in every culture community, there's certain things that are done that our forefathers have done, and they've had negative impacts on other people, and so those scars are still prevalent. And it's looking back and realizing, how we can move forward, and sometimes certain topics need to be discussed and looked at, which may make other people uncomfortable.
Of course.
And it's not there to be used to bash people, but truth is truth, and we need to reflect. And that's even in our daily lives, where, we work in capacities, and often we get pulled up on that, and we have to give an account. And this is about looking at giving an account. Unfortunately, in our community, there are issues going on. We see knife crime and vice versa. We have to look at the roots. It's not just about that parenting. We have to look at the deep roots, and this opportunity, this platform gives us a chance to look at it in an intellectual way, scientifically, culturally, emotionally. And so things don't just happen just like that. It's decays happen over a period of time, and often you have to go back to the key roots and explore everything. Sometimes you have to look under a rock. Under the rock may know what you're looking for, but you can't always leave any unstoned things. So it's not about these discussions are about ultimately looking for answers, ways of moving forward. So people will be offended, certain things will be said which will make other people uncomfortable, and it's not necessarily about making you feel uncomfortable, but certain things need to be discussed. And some things need to be, you can deal with it honestly and sensitively, and other things it's just as it is. And it is about us taking, responsibility for actions and making sure that those things don't happen again. And unfortunately, as human beings, we don't always learn, and we end up creating the same problems as you see. People still blaming and bringing issues out that really, in this day and age, with our intelligence and our access to information and knowledge, we shouldn't be deceived, as we all know. So it is what it is.
Of course. All right, listen. Last question now, Don, yeah?
Yeah.
How are you feeling right now as a person? Yeah.
I feel empowered, because even, as I said, obviously the coronavirus is prevalent at the moment, but, it's given me time, this free time has given me time to understand what the difference is between a cold and a flu, what the virus is about. I've seen that viruses have been around for quite a long time, and they've been impacting on that. And the difference is, why is this had an impact? And seeing that, yes, there may be some, negative darkness around that's happened, or mismanagement. And it is, once you look at things, look beyond what you're being presented, it gives you there's often a level of peace and tranquility when you feel empowered and the truth is there. So for me, I'm a person that believes in God and in God's word, and I keep myself focused. I try and project what I want my life to be, and I believe I have a purpose. So I'm focusing on those things, really, and taking each day as it comes. So for me, yes, whilst things are there's chaos and confusion and all sorts of things, for me, I'm at peace. I'm just holding my little corner and just using the time to educate myself and just plan my future. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Eat healthy. We look at my diet and making major changes in my life. So for me, I'm cool. I've lost friends, and a lot of people I've known have passed away for one reason or another. And I'm just grateful to be alive, and I intend to make the most of my life.
All right, brother. So listen, where can the people get hold of you, Donald?
If they hold me, they hold me.
Where can they get hold of you, etc., i.e. Facebook?
Yeah, if you
IG?
see me, my name is Donald Hayden. I'm saying it in a Jamaican way, but it's Hayden. Hayden. Yeah, you can catch me on Facebook, or what's the other ones? Twitter. I don't really use Twitter, to be honest with you. I've only just got accustomed to Instagram. To be honest with you, I'm not really a social media person. I can only tolerate it to some extent, and I'm quite private. I don't put my whole life. That's just not me. Maybe for some other people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, or you can just get me through Uncle Drumz if you wanna speak to me further or whatever. Then yeah, I'll just say it's your show, your thing.
You said I'm the plug. I'm the plug, yeah.
Yeah. If they're serious and they wanna engage me in some capacity, then yeah, they can come through you. Just wanna add the topics that we've discussed. Literally, these there's so much more detail on there, but these are just literally we just scraping the surface. And I think as pertaining to the black community, we really undersell ourselves and do ourselves a disjustice, because often we just simplify things when really there are hundreds, thousands of books written on psychology, sociology, on medicines, and all sorts of things, environmental. And sometimes we trivialize some of the stuff that's relevant, and we dismiss it with glib things. So it's for this and that. But we really, in order to get a grasp of it, big grasp of it, it does require really looking at it in so many different ways.
All right, brother. Listen.
Cool.
We got to wrap this now. I want to say to you, Donald, yeah, like I said, real friend, real person, nice spirit, good energy, yeah. And I want to say more life to you, and good luck, and all the best in everything that you're doing.
I appreciate that.